So what are the three changes that come to us, that bring to us this reminder? The first, you may think is obvious. It's so obvious that we miss it. It's coming from non-existence to existence. There once was a time where you were not, and then there was a time where you came into being. Only of the Son of God, it says, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. The Son was not born. The Son eternally existed. He was given. The child was born. But you and I had a time where we were not, and then were called into being. It is David who says this remarkably, for you created me in my inmost being. You knit me to you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before even one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. You and I are in the thoughts of God. How to me are these thoughts? How precious, how fearfully and wonderfully we are made. David said that, and his son Solomon said, God's ways are as mysterious as the pathway of the wind, and as the manner in which the human spirit is infused into the little body of a baby while it is yet in its mother's womb. David goes on to say, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Who has set thy glory above thy heavens? Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings have you ordained strength. When I consider your heavens, the work of your finger stars which you've ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, or the son of man that you visit him? For you made him a little lower than the angels, and you've crowned him with glory and honor. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. You see, your name is of value because of the name of the one who formed you. His signature is on your soul. His signature is on your soul and mine. This forming that God gives to us for a purpose, just think about it for a moment. You know, an amoeba has a single little eye that is much more a mechanism than it is even properly called an eye. One cell. There are 107 million cells in the human eye. From that fertilized ovum, over 9 months, it comes to about 1 trillion cells. One single strand of the human DNA. If you were to put it into print, and you put 500 words per page and 600 pages per volume, it would take 1,000 volumes to put your DNA in there. 600,000 pages. He made you so beautifully unique that he made you for a purpose. He brought you from non-being into being. You are not the random collocation of atoms or accidentally on this blip of time. You were designed specifically for a purpose by the living God who brought you into being for a purpose. And if there's something that I think you ought to do for yourself this year, pause and ask God, what is it he's made you for? Wasn't it Mark Twain who said 2 of the greatest days of your life? Number 1, the day you were born, and number 2, the day you find out why. Why were you born? When he's put his signature on your soul. When I was a young lad, family of 5 kids, my dad at that time pretty hard on me, pretty tough on me, and he had reason to. I wasn't going anywhere. In fact, my mother used to talk in a Tamil phrase. I won't give you that language literally. If anybody speaks Tamil, it says, Dandasota Rama Gundupota Vada. It literally means this wandering Rama goes all over the world, but at the sound of food being put on the table, he'd show up. That was me. You put the food on the table and he shows up. And my dad one day looked at me. He wasn't being funny. He looked at me and he said, "You're going to bring the greatest shame to this family ever. You're heading nowhere." And in a shame-oriented culture, I knew that was my death knell. And then I'll never forget, first honorary doctorate that was given to me sometime, I don't know when it was, late 70s or early 80s, at Houghton College in New York. My mother had passed away by then. She died in her 50s. My dad came for that and he was sitting on my left. He had gone and bought my hood. He said, "We're going to drape on me." And I still remember him sitting there with his head thrown back, saying, "Is this for real? Is this really happening?" And it was not at all surprising. Literally a day before he died, but he didn't know he was dying then, he opted for open heart. And I lived in Niagara Falls, New York. He lived in Toronto. All of my brothers and sisters still live in Toronto. The closest was my older brother, 10 minutes away from him. He phoned me in Niagara. He said, "Son, I want you to take me to the hospital. I'm not feeling well." I said, "Dad, the Jeep is here." He said, "I want you to come." So I got into my car, drove the 75 miles, headed to Toronto, picked him up. I didn't realize why. All the way to the hospital, he talked to me about the premonition that he didn't think he was going to come out of this. But there's one score he needed to settle before he passed away. He said, "I need to ask you forgiveness for all that I thought of you and mentioned." See, we as earthly parents make a lot of mistakes. We all do it. Our Heavenly Father doesn't make those mistakes. His signature is on your soul. He's called you, fashioned you, brought you from non-being into being. About 2 years ago, the man who led me to the Lord, who brought the Bible into my room, some of you here know him, Fred David. I spoke to him. He was in Los Angeles, and he was literally a few days away from breathing his last. He phones me, and with a broken voice on the phone, he tells me, "Rav," he said, "sometimes I think I came into this world just to bring that Bible to you." I said, "Fred, you did a lot more than that." But you see, the purpose that God will use you for, you have no idea how He can use you as salt and light in this world. Whether you realize it or not, you're an influence to people. And He brought you from non-being into being. Lewis Thomas in his Medusa and the Snail, talking about the marvel of life, he makes this incredible statement. The mere existence of this cell should be one of the greatest astonishments on the face of the earth. People ought to be walking around all day, all through their waking hours, calling to each other in endless wonderment, talking of nothing except that cell. If anyone does succeed in explaining it within my lifetime, I will charter a skywriting airplane, maybe a whole fleet of them, and send them aloft to write one great exclamation point after another around the whole sky until all of my money runs out. This exclamation mark, this thing we call life, spoken into existence by God. You were brought into being from not being on being. There was a day where you were not, and all of a sudden you were. Find out the purpose for which He created you. That change from non-existence to existence is wrapped up in your individual entity. You are not a quantity. You are an entity. God has a specific purpose for you to fulfill. When you find that out, you're late in saying, "I'm waiting for the divine accolade. Well done."